Welcome back to Media7, where we're looking at women in the media and media for women with Sarah Stewart, Ursula Carlson and Dave Walden. Now, as ever, Sam Mulgrew has the numbers.
To concupiscent men and envious women, sex sells. All media reinforce the convoluted importance of mating for the sake of evolution. Case in point, this month's next report on Kiwi women.
11% of women have been tempted to cheat.
41% don't place importance on exercise.
86% think about their weight daily.
37% are too tired for sex.
5% of women have taken drugs at work to cope.
Marketers know it's women who wear the consuming pants. They control 83% of household spending decisions. But if women are consumers, it's men who are trying to work out what they want. 97% of US ad agency creative directors are men. 92% of company directors on the New Zealand Stock Exchange Top 100 are male, and men in this country earn 13% more than women. Only a third of seats in our parliament are held by women. Rwanda and Andorra are the world's only two countries where more than half of parliamentary seats are held by women. Sarah Palin, seen here immortalised by this installation barbecue in Chicago, was the perfect decoy for empowerment until the hot air started coming out. Women are still dangled in front of us like carrots before donkeys.
Dave Walden, advertising man, I put it to you, it's all your fault.
And I accept it. I mean, I love it. If you look at some of those ads that you saw there, absolutely, the TUI ads, everyone loves them. You know, no one really thinks that there are scantily clad women in the brewery down the road, but everyone enjoys it. It's a bit of fun, and actually, we like it.
There's a sense with those ads, I think, that everyone's in on the joke, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that's part of it. I mean, if you look at it, we've come a long way from where we had to be quite careful and kind of tiptoe around stuff. Now we're quite comfortable about saying, hey, this is a bit sexist, but we're going to almost disclose that at the beginning. We're going to let you in on the joke, and then we can all share it. And that's a long way. But there's some interesting things happening. I mean, after 9/11 in the States, everyone kind of regained their masculinity and all got quite sort of macho, and everyone had to be the provider and looking after the family and doing all that. Then the GFC arrived, half of them were unemployed, and all of a sudden it was Mr. Mom, and they've been emasculated, and you see these amazing cycles in terms of attitudes to the way in which men are portrayed in advertising. Now, it's a lot smarter to have a couple in the supermarket aisle than it is just to have the woman on her own.
That's interesting, because men usually are portrayed as idiots in TV ads.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for that.
Just out of interest, how many of the people who make advertising creative directed at women are in fact women?
I don't think enough of them. I think if you look in this industry here in New Zealand, there's probably men outweighing women at least sort of 4 to 1. In my agency, we've got more women on staff than we have men, but none of them are really in senior creative positions, so we get blokes writing ads for women. But, you know, I think if you look at it, advertising is actually one of the industries that is probably a bit more equal than lots. We've got, you know, a lady running one of the biggest advertising agencies in town, and we've got a lot of people who are in powerful roles within the business. So it's getting better, but it could be a lot better.
Ursula, what did you do when you were in the industry?
I was a photo retoucher. I took out all the dark rings and did some designing.
So it's your fault too?
Yeah, no. But, like, because I used to work with a lot, with those Burger King ads, for instance, with the 3 girls. Everybody, it was so degrading to women. Okay, but those 3 ladies that did it, they took their cheeks and laughed all the way at everybody else. It's so degrading to women. Yeah, because they got paid well for it. And yeah, it's probably not great, and nobody's ever going to ask me to ride around on a horse in a red bikini, you know, promoting their burgers. And out of the 4 of us, those 3 ladies and me, I'm the only one that actually eats it. But because they had the, you know, half a lettuce leaf for lunch, and I had the burgers. But And people should see that. I think people just need a better, sense of humour about it. When you look at that ad is targeted at men, but they use the 3 girls. But it's the same as those man troll ads. If I was a guy, I'd go, they think we're all...
Yeah, well, you do.
All mental.
Most portrayal of men in advertising in lots of ways make us all look like dicks.
Well, fair enough.
We are. Well, hello. And we're often assaulted. I mean, we've got... You talk about sexism in advertising and how there are these beautiful retouched women. What about all the blokes? You see David Beckham wandering around with a great six-pack and looks like a stuffed chook down his knickers. And, we're all supposed to look at ourselves and say we should be like that. I mean, I think there's a bit of... Hello. I rest my case. See, it's all their fault. It is all their fault.
But, Sarah, this is a truism in magazines in general, isn't it? That if you want your magazine to sell, you put a woman on the cover, whether the magazine's for women or men. Really?
Yeah, I was new to magazines when I came into the Women's Weekly 18 months ago, and that's absolutely what I'd heard. But some of our best sellers last year were actually men on the cover. We had a couple of Paul Henry covers that sold extremely well, and Jonah Lomu sold hugely. So, yeah, it's not a truism.
One thing I did want to get to was in this magazine, in your top 10 list of the most influential women, you've got the top twins in there. And then inside here, there's a picture of Georgina Beyer.
Yeah.
So you've got lesbians and a transgender woman in there. I wonder if maybe that's actually not uncharacteristic of the women's magazines. They've often seemed quite socially progressive.
Well, I think it's about New Zealand rather than about women's magazines. The top twins are beloved in New Zealand, and I think it's partly about their amazing talent, but it's also about the fact that they completely accept who they are and have such amazing joy. New Zealand's a very non-judgmental place, I think.
I agree with you. It is very open in New Zealand. I think if anybody feels discriminated in New Zealand, I think it's their own fault. It might be a little bit of the old chip on the shoulder kind of thing, Yeah,
Russell, before I came on the show, I did a bit of Googling about sort of sexism and body shapes and influence and that. I found the Pippa Middleton Arse Appreciation Society. There is a whole... there's a whole thing on the web now of Pippa Middleton. Ever since she followed Kate down the aisle, it has gone mad. And that is about how a great body shape can influence a whole heap of media conversations, and it's just going on and on and on.
She may well have other virtues, Dave.
I'm not sure.
I think she's sort of making the most of the one.
One thing, I don't know whether you've seen it on the internet this week, has been Jezebel, the feminist website, collected the 44 worst sex tips from Cosmopolitan magazine, which is still trucking along. But there was that era where the role of women's magazines was to liberate. I don't know what you think of some of these. Cook dinner topless, apply a little tomato sauce to your nipple and ask your man to lick it off.
That's going to have to be non-fat cooking, because that'll splatter, right? That's not something you want to do while you're making bacon.
But quite seriously, though, I think, and perhaps fortunately in the case of Cosmo, maybe it's fortunate that we've gotten past this idea of women's magazines having this role of liberating women in this quite odd, sort of highly instructive way, haven't we?
Yeah,
is it all a bit more relaxed now?
I don't think that was ever liberation, actually. I'm not sure that was perhaps Cosmo's role. I can't imagine women's magazines running that kind of thing today. Certainly not in New Zealand. It might be more of an international thing.
Russell, I remember when Cosmo did sealed sections with the sort of sex tips and how to, and if you put your ad near the sealed section, you got twice the viewership.
That
twice
was
the
1974, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Outrageous. Outrageous. It was just yesterday.
How old were you at the time?
Well, being a senior now.
I borrowed my sister's.
And on that note, because we all did that, that is our show for this week. Thanks to Sarah Stewart, Ursula Carlson and Dave Walden. And thanks to you for joining us. We'll be back next week with the last ever Media7. So until it's really goodbye, see you then.